What's up, noobs? Zero energy buildings are one of the holy grails of sustainable development, and it's one of our goals at YD Development to build a zero energy house one day. So what is a zero energy building? It's efficiency and balance, and it can be represented as a straightforward formula. The energy you generate on site for a particular building must be equal to the energy requirements at all times. Or to put it more simply, you make the energy that you use. No more, no less. Although if you generate more, you can sell it back to the grid and get extra cash flow. This means you have essentially no utility bill, leading to better cash flows and higher resale value. You're also protected from fluctuations in energy costs, and your building will generate lower carbon emissions. In theory, this sounds amazing, and you might wonder why every developer doesn't pursue a zero energy building. But there are a few downsides. The technology required for a zero energy building is still evolving, so there's usually higher construction and soft costs associated with it. Assembling development teams and staying within budget can be hard enough for normal buildings, so adding the extra challenge of integrating new technology with people who may not understand it is often seen as a risk. Despite the challenges, there are a number of successful zero energy building case studies, like the Discovery School in Arlington, Virginia. It has an array of 1,710 solar panels that save $100,000 a year. That almost covers the salaries of about 2 teachers. The building was also built under budget, which made this a huge step towards the future of construction. On an even larger scale, Apple Park, the $5 billion ring-shaped headquarters completed in 2017, achieved a LEED Platinum certification and is 100% powered by renewable energy. There's a 17 megawatt solar installation as well as a 4 megawatt biogas fuel cell, and energy is managed in an on-site microgrid with battery storage. At YD Development, we even included a number of sustainable features on our first project in Hell's Kitchen. We were the first building in the neighborhood to use a solar canopy, which generates 14.4 kilowatt hours of electricity from its 40 solar panels. We also installed a green roof to improve insulation on the top floor. While we couldn't achieve zero energy on this one, our energy bills have proven to be significantly lower than Common, the co-living management company's, average on a per member basis. So we're definitely seeing positive cash flow from it. Check out our project video to see all the things we did there. But going back to the balanced energy equation, there's a lot of ways developers can tackle both sides of the equation to achieve zero energy. On the right side, look at the total amount of energy required to run your building, broken down into monthly, daily, and even hourly demand in kilowatt hours. That's the size of your building's energy pie, or energy footprint. By lowering the energy demands, you shrink that pie and make it easier to hit the energy generation goal on the left side of the equation. So how do we shrink the pie? Well, most people don't live in buildings that have on-site renewable energy sources, but everyone can tweak their behaviors to reduce energy waste. The EPA estimates that approximately 30% of energy used in buildings is wasted. The number one use of energy in buildings goes towards heating and cooling, accounting for nearly 50% of energy usage. But an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure, and one of the biggest energy savers in construction or renovation is good insulation. Preventing hot or cold air from escaping your building envelope is essentially the same as preventing money from flying out your windows. In construction, the effectiveness of insulation is called the R value, which measures how well a layer of insulating material resists the flow of heat between two sides. R values between 13 to 23 are acceptable for exterior walls, and the higher it gets, the better your insulation is. Roofs and attic spaces should be around R40 or more. For a zero energy house, you'll want to double those numbers. The idea behind good insulation is to minimize unwanted transfers of heat. Heating and air conditioning are essentially heat transfer systems, and none of them are perfectly efficient. These systems will take your air inside, push it through a process that either adds or removes energy from the air, and then pushes it back into your rooms. But I'm sure you know the air doesn't stay that way. For you physics nerds, the second law of thermodynamics states that systems tend towards higher entropy, and likewise your house will tend to achieve thermal equilibrium between the interior and exterior. The air inside your house will want to rise or fall to match the air outside by escaping through poorly insulated areas with low R values. So back in housing terms, that means it'll escape through your walls, windows, doors, HVAC ducts, attics, and even your pipes. Even if you're not developing a ground-up building, you can do little things like adding weather stripping on your doors and windows to prevent this heat transfer. But if you are building something from scratch and willing to venture into new territory, materials like the NASA-developed aerogel can have R values above 60 versus more commonly used fiberglass, which is in the teens or low 20s. But for context, that doesn't matter so much if your building has huge windows. Glass has an R value around 1. Heat practically passes right through it. You'll need triple or quad pane glass to get R values up to around 8. So strategically placed windows and skylights can be used to capture sunlight and therefore heat in the winter, while closing curtains in the summer can make a huge difference in keeping your building cool. So combining that with automated window blinds or electrochromic glass, which changes opacity on command, can help hot or cold air from escaping. Smart glass maker View Inc. is one of the companies that makes these windows, and they're going public via a SPAC under the symbol CFII. Exposed concrete floors are also fantastic at storing heat from the sun and releasing it at night, so having a skylight in a room with a concrete floor is a good way to keep a room warm during the winter. Moving on, the second biggest energy user in buildings is the water heater. This is another heat transfer system, but it's entirely enclosed within the building. The challenge here is not to prevent heat from escaping outside, but rather to prevent heat from escaping the pipes between the time it's heated up and stored in your water tank to when you turn on your faucet or shower to draw from it. So there are 3 things you can do to make the system much more efficient. Number 1 is buy a tankless water heater. These can use electric or natural gas and heat water on demand instead of storing them in a water tank that needs to be constantly heated. They also save a ton of space, but they're much more expensive than regular boilers and water tanks. Number 2, insulate your pipes. That's simple enough. And number 3, and this is a super rare system, install a water heat recycling system to recapture heat energy from used hot water from your dishwasher, washing machine, or tub. Moving on, the rest of the sources of energy uses in homes comes from lighting and major energy appliances like the washer dryer, fridge, and electronics. In fact, dryers are the most energy-hungry appliance that can be found in the average American home. According to the Natural Resources Defense Council, a typical dryer can consume as much energy per year as a new energy-efficient refrigerator, washing machine, and dishwasher combined. And if you have an older model, that number could be even higher. It's really simple to reduce waste on these items. Make sure you get energy-efficient appliances and light bulbs, and be cognizant of your behavior. Energy Star appliances meet EPA standards and usually come with a label. Even though they may cost a little more initially, they make up for it in energy savings. Use cold water laundry cycles and sun dry if you can. Keep your fridge door shut, and turn off the lights. Alright, so that covers the basics of shrinking the energy pie, which was the right side of our original zero energy building equation. The left side is all about generating energy on site to match the demands of the pie, so you don't have to use energy from the grid. As of now, there's a number of ways to do that. The basic idea behind alternative and renewable energy sources is that there's plenty of energy in our environment that can be harnessed and repurposed for use in our buildings, which oddly enough coincide with the elements that make up Captain Planet.
Earth, fire, wind, water, by your powers combined, I am Captain Planet!
Except it's more like geothermal, solar power, wind turbines, hydroelectric dams, and financial engineering. Yep, they all need to pass the basic financial test, which is actually kind of heartless. The incremental cost of the renewable energy system above traditional systems must generate a return in line with the IRR of the real estate project. This is the single greatest hurdle to widespread adoption of renewables. Solar panels, for example, have a typical IRR of 7 to 10%. Real estate development deals usually require upwards of 12%. I've installed solar panels on 2 projects, and the jury's still out on the returns. But tax rebates and government subsidies usually support newer technologies while adoption ramps up. That being said, solar panels are the most popular and prevalent renewable energy technology in buildings. For you physics nerds, a solar panel works by allowing photons or particles of light to knock electrons free from atoms, generating a flow of electricity. Solar panels actually comprise of many smaller units called photovoltaic cells. And photovoltaic simply means they convert sunlight into electricity. Once it's installed, you don't need much maintenance, and it'll generate free energy for about 30 years. If you have space for enough panels, you can actually generate all your energy requirements from solar alone. However, if you're in a region that doesn't get a lot of sunny days, the costs aren't justified without tax incentives and low interest loans. Other downsides are that finding installers can be difficult, and panels are still kind of expensive. Not every roof can hold solar panels, and the industry is full of salespeople who push predatory leasing contracts where you don't own the panels, so beware of those. Another downside of solar panels is that peak energy generation is usually midday, which pre-COVID isn't peak usage time in homes. And at night, it's not generating anything, so you have to use energy from the grid when the sun's down. So basically, during the day, use it or lose it. However, home batteries are often sold with solar panel systems to address this issue. Home batteries store energy generated by renewable sources like solar panels and allow the home to draw from it as needed, regardless of whether the system is generating electricity or not. so any completely off-grid building requires a battery in order to prevent outages. The downside of batteries is that they're super expensive. In the 2 installs I did, the financial returns didn't justify batteries on the first one, and NYC's fire department didn't approve the use of batteries in the city on the second one at the time because leaking batteries can cause nasty fires. So pricing has to come down and battery technology has to improve for this to become more viable. As you may know, Tesla acquired Solar City years ago and produces solar panels and battery systems. They also announced solar roof shingles a while back, but the price is still impractical right now. The next best renewable energy source is geothermal energy. About 6 to 8 feet below ground, the temperature is actually pretty constant around the entire globe, between 40 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit, or 10 to 15 degrees Celsius. Remember, heating and cooling is the #1 energy suck from the right side of the equation, and geothermal energy is one of the best ways to leverage the second law of thermodynamics to tackle it. A geothermal heat pump is an independent system that pumps water through pipes looping 6 to 8 feet underground, where it's cooler than the outside in the summer and warmer than the outside in the winter. When the water returns into your house, it's at the same temperature as the ground, and the temperature difference of that water can be used to supplement your existing HVAC system. These systems are typically installed on new construction homes, but can save 50% on your heating and cooling bills. Dandelion Geothermal is a company born from Google's X Labs that produces single-family home-sized geothermal systems. The last 2 sources of renewables are less popular because they're geography-specific: wind turbines and hydroelectric power. At YD, we've actually considered both for prospective deals that are next to rivers and along hills. They're both built upon the same concept. Either air or water has to flow through a system to spin a turbine that generates electricity. On a mass infrastructure scale, both of these sources have been around for decades and generate an increasingly significant portion of the world's energy supplies. But on a single building scale, the technology is really limited and almost impractical. You can install a small wind turbine on your property, but you're probably going to kill some birds and piss off your neighbors. And it's still going to be huge. Small-scale hydroelectric generators are definitely more feasible if you live next to flowing water. A Belgian company called Turbulent has created this small-scale generator in a river that supposedly powers up to 60 homes. Unlike a normal dam, which stores rainwater and controls the downward flow onto turbines, this system diverts a stream or a river into a small whirlpool with a turbine in it, generating electricity as long as the river is flowing. The challenge here in the US is, if the costs pencil out, you need to find a way to get a system like this permitted and installed by people who know how to do it. I'm sure there are more obscure ways to generate on-site power or reduce energy usage, but these are the ones that I'm most familiar with. If you know of additional methods or even work for a renewable energy company, let me know in the comments what you think are some of the most effective technologies to achieve net zero energy in buildings. We'll also be covering how to achieve net zero carbon for a building in a future video, so look out for it. Till then, stay curious, noobs.